Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Linda Lang.
Hi, this is Linda Lang from thoughtchange.com. We are exploring the mystical side of life once again this week. If you enjoy our conversations, please make sure you subscribe, share it with a friend. Today we are talking miracles with Brent Phillips. Welcome, Brent.
I'm excited to be here. This is great.
So you have a really interesting background, Brent, from an MIT engineer to energy healing to spiritual teaching. How did that happen for you?
Well, it's kind of funny that I never thought I'd be doing anything like this, right? Wasn't on my radar at all. Yeah, growing up, I was just your typical nerd. I loved Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Trek, all that stuff, right? And when I was in college at MIT, I discovered the internet, which of course sounds funny today, but back then it was a new thing, right? And I'm like, wow, this worldwide computer network, this is going to change everything. And it has. And so I became a specialist in networking computers, went on to graduate school at MIT. And there I was very privileged to be part of the World Wide Web Consortium when the web started to break out. So I was literally helping to write the code that is the foundations of the modern internet. So it was a really exciting time.
That's pretty amazing, actually, that you had your finger in that pot of unity.
We're doing these amazing things. And it's a little sad in a way, because back then we really thought the internet was going to be a force for good. We really did. Free exchange of information, cross the borders, liberate people, connect people. We were very optimistic. And when it came time for me to leave school, I thought it would be easy. I'm like, this will be easy. I'm going to move to California, recruit my best friend, start an internet company, and we'll make millions of dollars, right? And that was my plan. It didn't work out so well, but it was a good plan, right? And long story short, we had a lot of success at first. And the very first website I ever created in my whole life was actually the website for the launch of the Sony PlayStation in the summer of 1995. So that was the first website I built. So we did a lot of great things. We worked with Disneyland, Nissan Motors, several divisions of Sony. So we had like over a half dozen Fortune 500 clients. I had 15 people working for me, and it was going great. And that's when my health started to crater, because I was pushing myself so hard. I was working 60, 80, occasionally even 100 hours a week. And long story short, my body couldn't handle it. And I started having pain and stiffness and tingling and all these things. And to make a long story very short, I spent 3 years in conventional therapy trying to get better. And I didn't get better. I got worse. My pain got so bad that I had to move in with my parents, because some days I just needed help getting dressed or cutting my food. So this was a big deal. And after 3 years of this journey of going to doctors, physical therapists, etc., I finally got in to see the head doctor at Kerlin Jobe, which is the big physical therapy clinic in California. That's where all the Olympians and professional athletes go, right? And I thought, wow, this guy will know what to do, right? I'm finally going to have an answer. I'll finally get my life back. And I walked in to see him, and he's looking at my medical files, and he just goes, well, I'm sorry, son, but there's nothing I or a doctor can ever do for you. You're always going to be in pain, and you'll never be able to go back to work. I was just like, what? Right?
What a thing to say to someone.
The last thing he said was, I'm going to do you a favor and put you on permanent disability now. And so, no joke, when I was 27 years old, I was put on permanent disability and sent home to die, being told there's no chance you'll ever be out of pain. You'll never be able to work again. Just get over it. And I was devastated. And when I told my best friend about this, my business partner, I figured he'd be all, hey, Brent, I got your back. We'll get through this together. No. He said, well, then I guess you don't have any more position at our company. And he fired me from the company I had founded, and then took it and sold it for over $3 million behind my back. And the craziest thing was, one, he was also secretly dating the woman I was in love with. And two, and this is the craziest thing of all, he had inherited over $10 million that year from his late grandfather. He didn't need the money. And so, long story short, I was left living with my parents, terrible chronic pain, put on lifetime disability, and told I could never recover. I had also lost my best friend and I had a terrible heartbreak. And, to be honest, I really struggled. I started day drinking, using drugs. I was suicidal. But I had a friend of mine turn me on to alternative medicine. And I thought, hey, this alternative medicine, this might do it, right? So, again, long story short, I spent 5 years full time running around chasing alternative treatment, running up a gigantic credit card debt, right? 5 years, acupuncture, herbs, osteopathy, homeopathy, cleanses, diets, magnets. I mean, you name it, I tried it, right? So 5 years later, I find myself almost $100,000 in debt, still living on disability with my parents, still in pain. And I'm like, what the hell, right? So it has a happy ending in that I eventually went to have an experimental surgery. And of course, the surgery didn't help me, but the surgery made it so bad, it was laughable. When I woke up from the surgery, my arm was paralyzed, my right arm. So, on top of everything else, now I can't use my right arm, which is a big problem when you're right handed, right? And I'm laughing because it was just so comical how awful it was. And about 6 months after that, my Aunt Lauren told me about this crazy healer lady named Terry. And I went to see Terry. And honestly, I didn't expect anything to happen, right? I'd done years and years of all these different therapies and techniques, and nothing made a difference. And she talked to me about the power of the subconscious mind, showed me how to do the subconscious block clearing, asked me lots of questions, right? And at the end of the hour, she's like, "Okay, Brent, we're gonna take care of your arm now." And I'm like, "Yeah, lady, whatever, right?" And she kind of closed her eyes, went into a trance for a minute, and that's when it happened. I felt this pop. There was this loud wang inside my elbow. And I was like, whoa, what was that? And I remember Terry opened her eyes. She was like, "Okay, dear, try your arm now." And I did. And I'm like, oh my God, I had experienced a miracle that my arm that had been paralyzed by this surgery instantly healed. And I was like, oh my gosh. Though what I actually said was a little more R rated, but we'll keep it clean for the podcast, right? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And I'm like, "Terry, I don't know what you just did, but I want to do more and you have to teach me." And, long story short, that's how this skeptical, nerdy, scientific engineer became an energy healing practitioner and teacher. And, it was my goal to go learn this stuff and go share it with the world, to shout it from the mountaintops.
That must seem like a totally different life.
It does. It's so distant now, and my world has changed so much. It's almost like a movie I watched or a book I read, right? It does feel a little surreal now. Absolutely.
Yeah, I get that. When I think of my own story way back when, it seems like just a totally different life.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite the story, Brent. And thankfully, you had that gumption to actually try that healer, because your story could have ended very differently.
It's funny. And that's something I think about sometimes. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for me to say, no, this isn't going to work. Right. But I was so desperate that the reason I did it was partly was I had to prove to myself and everyone that nothing could help me. And so I went more not expecting a good result, but mainly so I could just show everyone, look, this didn't help either. Now, that's not a great motivation, but it got me in, right? But yeah, it would have been the easiest thing in the world to say no, to skip it, to sleep in. Because one, I couldn't afford it, right? It was more debt. But I'm so glad I did, because it gave me a whole new life.
And it opened that possibility up for you for miracles.
Yeah, absolutely. That was just the first of many, the first of many.
First of many. Well, I want to know more about your formula for miracles and how to work with your subconscious mind. That's something I do in my healing practice. And, as far as I'm concerned, your subconscious is your best friend.
Yep.
Or should be your best friend.
It can be. Yeah.
It could be your worst enemy, depending on what you've got stored in there, I suppose, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're on the right track. The way I see it is the subconscious, the way we relate to it is kind of like a marriage. That when it's healthy, it'll be your best friend. It's there to support you. if the relationship gets toxic, it can be your worst enemy and can ruin your life too.
So how do you know that you have a good relationship, a good working relationship?
Well, it's pretty simple. How is your life going? So if you're making plenty of money, you're prosperous, then you have a good relationship with your subconscious around money and prosperity. If you're very healthy, physically, emotionally, feeling good, alert, full of energy and life and curiosity, then congratulations. You have a good relationship with your subconscious in terms of health. This is how I see it. When I was first learning this stuff, it's kind of funny. I thought it was going to be easy to learn healing. Why? Well, I had come through MIT, right? I had straight A's, top of my class in the most difficult major at the most competitive university on the planet. And I thought, oh, learning this new age stuff will be easy. It wasn't. I was terrible. And there's a reason. I was totally stuck in my head, right? So I spent a couple years running around doing trainings, just getting frustrated because nothing worked for me. Then I took a different approach. I'm like, okay, I was not born with a natural talent like some people are, right? Like my first healer, Terry, she had a great talent. And I've met some amazing people, but most of them don't really understand what it is they're doing or how it works. It's just a gift they have, right? I didn't have that gift. I had to learn this the hard way, step by step. So I started a journey that I thought would take a year, ended up taking 10, right? But I went around to all these incredible healers, mystics, shamans, holy people, etc. And I learned what they had to teach, but more importantly, I reverse engineered their processes. I tried to figure out, okay, what exactly is happening here? And that's where the formula for miracles came from. That I little by little figured out little pieces of what they were doing and how it all worked. So I was able to create a system that's kind of no nonsense, no fluff, just the facts. This is how things work. And in terms of the subconscious, this is what I found, that each human life is very much like a computer or a smartphone. Your body is the hardware and your subconscious is the software. And did you know that you have a program inside of you for every area of your life? So you have a subconscious program that determines how much money you make, how healthy you are, how happy you are, your sense of purpose, all these things that are literally coded into us. So when you say, how do you know if you have a good relationship with your subconscious? It's pretty easy. Just look at your life. If you're doing great and you're enjoying your life and it's an exciting adventure, awesome. If it's not, maybe you need to do some debugging.
And how do you get a good relationship with your subconscious if it needs improvement?
Well, that's a great question. And so the way I see this is, this to me is all technology. That yes, there's aspects of philosophy, mysticism, religion, but those are sort of placeholders for technology. Why is that? Well, we need our myths and stories to hold us over until we figure out how it actually works, right? So if we look at ancient peoples, some ancient peoples believe that when the cock crowed, it made the sun rise. Well, we know that's not true, right? The sun doesn't actually rise, it's just the earth rotates and it creates the illusion of the sun rising, right? So nowadays we have the technology and science to understand that. And my goal is to take energy healing, mind power, law of attraction, and give it more of a grounding in laws of physics, in mathematics, in engineering. Why? This is what works, right? All you need to do is learn the basics of the technology. You just need to learn some essentials. For example, one piece that's easy to discuss is on my journey of research, I found there was a really strong correlation between mystical paranormal phenomena and the theta brain state. And this goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. So part of the journey is learning how to get yourself into a theta state. That's how we unlock the subconscious. And there's other pieces too. You need to learn how to connect to divine energy, get out of the ego. So there's a handful of boxes we have to check. The good news is it doesn't take long to learn. That people that come through my trainings, within a few hours, you will start doing theta wave healings, start to clear the subconscious. So it's a matter of hours to learn these things. And when I learned this, it was much harder. It took me 7 years full time to get certified as a master healer. So that was a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of expense, right? I've had some of my students get to the same place as fast as 3 months. Why? It's just technology.
Well, I think, Brent, you're probably the perfect person to have gone through all of those experiences and created a process from all your learnings.
I don't know if I'm the perfect person, but I'd like to think I'm a good enough person. This is important to me too, because it gives a purpose and a meaning to all the suffering and darkness I went through.
So let's talk miracles. What kind of miracles have you experienced or seen in your students?
Oh gosh, it'd be easier to say what kinds we haven't, right? There's been many, many health-related miracles. Those are probably the most common. I mean, I've seen people instantly heal from cancer at least a dozen times. I've had one client who was HIV, went totally undetectable. I've seen broken bones heal overnight. People get past addictions, depression, anxiety, different autoimmune disorders. So, in my work one-on-one, I've seen over 1,900 miracles with my clients, which is pretty good, right? You don't get thousands of miracles by coincidence. There's something going on. And the miracles are very attractive, but I also want to tell the truth that there is no magic wand that's going to make your life exactly the way you want overnight, right? That I think one of the dangers in the self-improvement world is there's a lot of people that put a lot of BS out there to make money. And I don't want to do that. I want to tell the truth. And so here's the truth. We don't pick the miracles, they pick us. And so I want to be clear that there is not a magic wand that you can use to point at your bank account and make yourself a billionaire overnight, right? That would be nice. There's not a magic wand that's guaranteed to heal your pain overnight. What there is a process based in metaphysical laws of the universe that you can apply to move towards your goals. How long will that take? I'm not sure. But if you're willing to engage the process and do the work, you'll get there. That it's almost like falling in love. That there's no magic wand that's going to make you fall in love next Friday, right? There is no such thing, at least that I'm not aware of. But if you're willing to engage the process, everybody can find love. For some, it might take a day. Others, it might take a month. Others, it might take a year.
I love that you're teaching that miracles choose us, because I like to think of the universe as having, some intelligence and a much higher perspective, whether you consider that your higher self or the intelligence of the cosmos. And we see our lives from such a narrow perspective while we're here. Anything that we choose for ourselves here is going to look very different from those higher perspectives. And sometimes there are better choices.
Absolutely. And so can we learn to create a flow of miracles? Yes. What we can't do is specify exactly what the miracles are and when they show up. So as long as we're willing to surrender that to some degree, for sure. So someone that comes through my training, if they go do healings on 100 people with 100 issues, I guarantee you will see miracles happen. But it's not going to be all 100, right? You might see 10, 20, 30 instant healings. And the rest of the time, we get a process that's actually more important, more valuable to us. So I would say come for the miracles, but stay for the process.
Exactly. And watch your life change.
Yeah, watch your life change.
Watch your life change. Before we wrap up, Brent, are there any last tips you'd like to leave our listeners with today?
Yeah, I think it's really important to emphasize that consciousness is a technology. Whether it's prayer or energy healing or law of attraction, there is a technology to applying the power of the mind and the spirit. And it can be very frustrating because you could have your system 99% correct, but it still doesn't work, right? So just know that everybody can heal. Everybody can create more wealth, more abundance, more security, more happiness. But there's not going to be a guarantee that it happens in a day or a week or a month, right? But if you're willing to engage the process, you can do it. And it doesn't matter whether your goal is to make $1 million or to get married or to get out of pain or live longer. It's all kind of the same. The question isn't whether or not you can get there. The question is, will you give up before you do? Because with the advanced work we haven't even talked about here with the quantum field, all of these things are achievable, every last one of them. And I just want to circle back to what you mentioned at the beginning. It would have been really easy for me to not show up that day with Terry. I could have had a million excuses. I don't want to spend the money. I don't have the time. It's not going to work, right? And for everybody listening, you have no idea how close you might be to your miracle. It could be right around the corner tomorrow, right? So that's why I say, don't give up. You never know when your miracle is right around the corner. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Maybe it's been a year, 5 years, 10 years you've been on your journey. That's okay. You never know when everything is about to change. Because as they say, it's always darkest before the dawn.
It brings to mind one more question for you, Brent. There are a lot of people that do law of attraction, affirmations, rituals. Can they find success without the healing part?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really kind of the same under the hood. That some people will come to me and say, hey, Brent, I'd like to do your training, but I only want to be a healer. Or I only want to manifest. What I would say is, let's like going to a car dealer and saying, well, I want to buy a car, but I only want my car to go to the grocery store. They'd be like, what? I would say, buy the car, take it wherever you like. So I will show everyone how to do this, how to heal, how to manifest, how to get into the subconscious. Where you choose to take yourself and your life with that is totally up to you. Some people just want to do medical intuitive work, and that's fine. Other people are very focused on healing. Others are more focused on ascension of consciousness, enlightenment. It's all fine. I just want to give you a good car. Then you drive it wherever you want. No need to ask me.
Perfect. It's been delightful chatting with you today.
It's been great to be here.
If anyone would like to reach out for more information, how can they do that?
Easiest thing is just hop onto my website at awakeningdynamics.com. And you'll see a big link. There should be a big button that says Save My Seat. You're going to want to click that because that locks you in for a free seat at my live Healathon webinar. And the Healathon is great because we have a lot more time. I'm going to walk you through all of the 7 sacred tools of higher dimensional living and do some interactive experiences so you can start to feel this and see it for yourself. So that's a must see. So check out the Healathon. There's also a link to my YouTube channel. There's a link to my spiritual power quiz to help discover your hidden spiritual power, as well as some other cool videos on things like training for awakening and the different levels of consciousness technology. So just head over to awakeningdynamics.com, sign up for the webinar, and start browsing, start watching. We got a lot of great stuff. I would love to show up and help be your teacher, your guide, and help you change your life.
Beautiful. Thank you again, Brent. And thank you for listening to this week's edition of Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. You will find all of our conversations on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your favorite podcast platform. Come visit me at thoughtchange.com. Pick up your copy of Learning to Listen and learn what energy medicine can do for you. We will see you again next time. Bye for now.